What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Drums and Drams whiskey review. My name is Cameron, and today we have yet another low-proof summer sippin' whiskey. This time it is the Tincup 10-year. Now, this is a whiskey that has been getting quite a bit of attention recently, especially after Matt Porter from ADHD Whiskey put out his review of this. A lot of people have been talking about the Tincup 10-year, and some others have found discrepancies between the labeling of different bottles. So I wanted to talk about that very quickly. And I should say, up front, I don't have an answer to these discrepancies. I can't speak to that because I only have this one bottle, but I am hoping to kind of figure this out over time. And that discrepancy, which I should mention to you, is that some of the bottles on this front label and on the actual tin cup on the top here, some of them say bourbon whiskey like mine does on both the cup and the label, and some say American whiskey. Additionally, my neck tag says American whiskey, and I don't know if some of them say bourbon or not. I mean, I guess bourbon is an American whiskey, but because of all this kind of mix and match stuff, I don't know if there's actually a difference between the liquid in the American whiskey bottles versus the bourbon bottles, if it's a labeling mishap that was caught and corrected. I have no idea, and if any of you know or have gotten a definitive answer from the distillery, please let me know in the comments of this video so we can, pin that comment and get that corrected. But at the time that I'm making this video, I don't know exactly what's going on with that. On the back of the bottle here, there is like a little kind of paragraph that says, Tincup 10 is a straight bourbon whiskey rested in white American oak barrels for a minimum of 10 years. So there you have it. The one that I am reviewing, which is the only one I can speak to, is a straight bourbon whiskey that is 10 years old. Let's go ahead and talk stats very quickly. As I just mentioned, the age statement is 10 years old, which is the minimum in this blend. The noticeable thing about this bottle is the proof. It's only 84 proof, which is 42% ABV. The mash bill is, I believe, undisclosed. Again, another one of those things that if you know the official mash bill, please let me know in the comments of this video. The distillery that it's sourced from is in Indiana. It does say on the side of the bottle, distilled in Indiana, which we can imagine at 10 years old is gonna be MGP. So there's a range of mash bills this could be as a bourbon. Suggested retail price is $55, and there is not really a secondary value for this bottle as of the time that I'm making this video. So I think that's all we need to know. Let's go ahead and check out the nose of this Tincup 10-year straight bourbon whiskey. Wow, a little bit sharper on the nose than you would expect from only an 84 proof product. Kind of stings the nostrils right away. But right behind that is a wallop of fruitiness. This thing is entirely fruit. I'm not getting anything else besides every fruit under the sun. Like no caramel, not any of those classic Kentucky bourbon notes. This is all fruit all day. Wow. Yeah, so let me kind of break it down. On the whole, this is a very dark whiskey. Grape, plum, dark cherry, maybe raspberry if you want to go there. It's really, really a dark whiskey. Some great oak influence here, which I'm going to kind of talk about in a little more detail in a second. Above that, I guess in terms of like thinking light to dark flavors, a little bit above that, I'm getting kind of the orange citrus, the spiced orange citrus note that you get from a lot of MGP 36% rye whiskeys, bourbons. You get that on the Tumblin' Dice 11. You get that on some of the Remus Repeal Reserves, especially I think batch 4 had a lot of that spiced orange note. So dark, rich, sweet fruits, spiced orange citrus, and also on the top of this, you get some kind of like green apple Jolly Rancher with some herbal qualities. I would say 80% of this whiskey is all fruit. 20% of it is spice and oak. You're getting kind of a green herbal spice quality, which I really enjoy, along with that black pepper that plays in with the citrus. And finally, in terms of the oak, yeah, it's just a nice balanced sweet oak. Almost like a Buffalo Trace kind of oak, which is great. I think MGP at lower proof like this can really emulate that Buffalo Trace sweet oak quality. So this is fantastic. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this as we go, but I want to go ahead and get this on the palate. So cheers. With a lot of these lower proof whiskeys, I like to let them sit on the palate just a bit longer before I swallow. It allows, you know, the most flavor possible to come through. And frankly, you can kind of deceive yourself that it's only 84 proof. If you leave it on the palate a few extra seconds, it might taste more like a 90, 95 proof whiskey. I mean, that is so in line with what you're getting on the nose with all of those fruit notes. The oak on the back end of the palate right now is wonderful. It's so sweet. It's not heavy and funky like a Kentucky straight bourbon would be at 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. You don't get any of that mustiness, really. And if you do, it's in a completely different way. It's a more earthy kind of wood quality here. It's not funky rick house. It's like earthy and how would I describe it? Almost sappy. It almost plays along with the greenness of the rye spice in here. The oak blends in with that because of its sappiness and its earthiness. And it also blends in with some of those dark fruit notes because of how sweet the oak is. So I really, really enjoy this. The first sip finish is not long. You wouldn't expect it to be. So short finish, although I would say appropriate for the proof. And just a great drinking experience. Very crushable though. You could drink a lot of this whiskey very quickly. Let's do a second sip now. Oddly, there's more ethanol on the palate than you would expect. And the same for the nose. When I mentioned right away, it seems a little hot for what it is, a little alcoholic. You're getting that on the palate too. So there is an unrefined element to it, even though I think as a whole, it's a really nice whiskey, very sippable. I could see this being a whiskey that you take outdoors and yeah, you go on a hike, you pour a little bit of this, kind of goes along with the whole tin cup idea. I can absolutely see this being a whiskey for that purpose. It's basically like you took every Jolly Rancher, except maybe like the watermelon one. Probably not that one. But blue raspberry, green apple, cherry, grape. It's like Thanos' gauntlet. It's like the Infinity Stones with Jolly Ranchers. You just take all of those and put them together, and you get this whiskey. It's so good. It has its defects because it's a little bit underproof. It's a little strangely alcoholic and unrefined in some ways, but it's really good whiskey, and it tastes like a seriously fantastic MGP blend that's just a little bit underproof, which is what it is, I guess. But like, you drink some of the old OKIs. I have a batch 27 back there, I think is 97 proof. It's like you just took that and proofed it down even further. That's what this tastes like. So you take what you can get at $55 and readily available. You might think it's a bad value, but it's a 10-year age-stated whiskey from MGP. I don't know where else you're gonna find something like that. Let me do one more sip. It gets a little less interesting the more you sip it, but damn it, I like this stuff. I gotta be a little subjective here. As objective as I try to be, sometimes you just gotta go where your heart is telling you. And so for this whiskey, let's go ahead and check out the final thoughts, my final thoughts, whatever you want to call it. In conclusion, I'm gonna say who's gonna like this whiskey? Fans of MGP, people who like a smooth bourbon, and people who want a fruit-forward whiskey that kind of defies other Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys, right? Who is not gonna like this? Barrel proof enthusiasts, the proofstitutes, as we call them, people who really care about a full drinking experience. You might not want to go for this, but otherwise, I don't think there are a lot of people that will dislike this. Based on that, can I recommend this whiskey? Yes, I absolutely recommend this whiskey, especially at the SRP of $55. I wouldn't pay over $60, maybe $65 for this to get a taste of it. But if you end up liking it, buy one, buy two, buy three. I mean, it's out there and it's probably not going to be out there forever. So you may as well pick a couple of these up if you like it. Value, this is an average to above average value. And my final score for this whiskey, 83? 83 out of 100? What is that? I think that's a solid B. Yeah, 83 out of 100, solid B. We're gonna go with that. So that's all I've got. Thank you for checking out this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell notification button to find out when I'm dropping new content and when I'm going live. If you want to help support the channel, check me out on Patreon. The Drums and Drams Patreon is a great way to do that. Otherwise, I will see you next time here on Drums and Drams. Cheers, and go pick yourself up a Tincup 10-year bourbon whiskey. Cheers, guys.